Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On-Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on-demand care for common ailments, such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org. From Boundary to Bear Lake, Fremont to Payette, Oahe to Oneida, there are interesting people, places, and histories in all of Idaho's counties. And Idaho Matters wants to share it with you with stories from all 44 counties that make up the Gem State. Email your ideas to idahomatters@boisestate.edu or use the Talk to Us feature in our app, available on Apple and Android, and tune in each weekday at noon for Idaho Matters.
From the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Samantha Wright, filling in for Gemma Gaudette. It's Idaho Matters. You know, I had a nice long intro set up for this, but I'm just going to go with this. I am holding a can of beer. It's an empty can of beer. And this is the first can of beer. Yes, Joe?
The very first.
The very first can of beer. So
maybe not the actual can, but one of
yes,
the very first.
The first cans.
First brand that cans beer.
Yes. Okay, so let me explain. When we had Joe Prin on a few weeks ago, we learned that along with his job as host of the Home Fix radio show on KBOI, he spends his free time collecting beer cans. He has more than 12,000 beer cans in his Eagle garage, which he's converted into a collector's paradise. We had to have him back on to talk about this. Joe, beer cans? Now, we've had beer cans forever, but we really haven't, right?
No. What you're holding in your hand there, the Kruger Cream Ale out of New Jersey, was sold in Richmond, Virginia as a test market because this was new. People have never had beer in cans up until that point when this debuted. That was January 24th, 1935. Wow. Is when that came out. And the can companies had been trying for years to get breweries to do this, and they wouldn't. They were very hesitant that it was going to ruin their reputation or the packaging would fail and consumers would be mad. And the sales pitch behind it was this. This is an ad that came out in one of the brewing journals at the time, and it says, "I am a beer can. I have no past, no future. I belong to you. I was brand new when I was filled. I'll never be used again. I am clean. I am safe. I'm easy to carry, easy to stack. I protect the delicious flavor of ale because I keep out harmful light." So this was new and scary for the American public to try canned beer.
And we don't even think of it now because canned beer is literally everywhere. As I mentioned, you have 12,000 plus canned empty cans of beer. Let's be clear on that one. You have mostly U.S. beer.
Correct. I've had to
cans.
Narrow down somewhere.
You've got a can. No, I'm looking over at Joe. He's in the studio with me, and he's brought a box load of different kinds of cans of beer. You've got one from World War II.
Yeah, this is a Schaefer Light. It's an olive drab beer can. When America went to war for World War II, beer was an important beverage and morale booster for troops when they were waiting and stationed in different places. But
Sure.
like all packaging and product, they didn't want things that were shiny and attractive. So there was a bunch of cans that were only produced in black and olive drab colors.
Wow.
So that when the GI was drinking this, there wouldn't be a little flash of light that could attract a sniper or something. These are very hard to come by because they weren't around here, obviously. They were shipped overseas and to bases. So those are a prized collectible within our hobby.
Well, and you mentioned you had to have a drab, can that wasn't shiny and show off. But, I mean, anyone who's drunk beer knows that there are a million different kinds of cans with artwork, and it can get very fancy.
Yes.
And so this, your collection just showcases so many different kinds. You've even got a can of beer of the kind of beer that Archie Bunker drank on the Archie Bunker show.
Yeah, this is what we call a prop can. This is when commercial endorsement deals couldn't be done between a studio or a movie. They came up with something else.
Yep.
a prop can, something that their characters on screen could use during the show to establish atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
So this is a paper label can. It's a paper label wrapped around a common beer can of the day. And from what I understood, Archie actually really did have beer in his cans.
In his can.
But it had this paper label that was wrapped around it. And this one came to me in kind of an interesting way. A guy called me up here in town and he said, I understand you collect cans, and I got this box I've been hauling around and a bunch of rusty old stuff. And I always say yes. I go pick this stuff up because you never know what you'll find. Well, at the bottom of the box was this one.
Oh my God.
What makes it even more special is it's signed on the side. Carol O'Connor,
Wow.
and in quotes, Archie. And he must have gave some of these away to
Oh my
fans or
gosh.
something. If you go to the Smithsonian
Uh-huh.
and you look at the display for All in the Family and Archie Bunker, there's Archie's chair, a little side table, Edith's chair, and sitting on that table is one of these cans.
One of those cans.
So I really like that one. And
You've got cans of different sizes, different shapes,
right.
pull tops, how we went from pull tops to where we are now today.
Yeah, the first pull tab came out in 1962.
And he's showing it to me right
Yeah,
now.
it came out in 1962. It was an engineer that developed this because he obviously didn't have his can opener with him all the time. And that's the other thing. We didn't have these church key can openers until the can was invented.
Oh.
So he didn't have that. So he said, there's got to be a better way. And he came up with this. And over the next few years, it evolved into the ring pull can that
Right.
if you're old enough, you
Yep.
remember you made strings of these in your
Yep.
dorm room, or you hung them from your mirror in your truck or whatever.
Yep.
Anyway, and then Jimmy Buffett blew out a flip-flop, stepped on a pop-top, cut his heel,
and had to go
cruise on
back home. That's right.
And they were banned in 1974. They were allowed to use up the inventories, but by 1978, the pull tab was gone, and we have the stay tab that we have today, where the tab stays with the can.
Now, this is serious business. I mean, we're having a lot of fun here, but this is very serious business. I'm looking at the Beer Cans and Brewery Collectibles magazine, which Joe edits, by the way, just in case you wanted to know. I'm actually looking at the back of it. It's full of great info. But on the back are some of the recent sales of beer cans.
Yeah, there's auction houses where collectors can decide, I don't want to collect anymore, and they sell it off, just like Hot Wheels cars or artwork or Beanie Babies or whatever collectible stuff there is.
Right? I'm looking at stuff that sold for $58,000, $48,000, $93,000. The top one currently $111,150
Yeah, for one beer can.
for one beer can.
It's obviously a very special one
It's a serious hobby.
for some.
Well, yeah. Well, everybody's hobby is serious.
But that's
for
not how
their
it started.
hobby.
It's not how it started.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s, the early 70s, it was kind of a fad thing. It was kind of a thing that kids did. They picked these things up and built these displays, and it was okay. And those kids now are adults.
Those are you.
Yeah, I started collecting in 1974 with a good friend of mine, and it was kind of competitive. Who could build the biggest collection? And then we found out there were other collectors out there, and we'd trade with them at shows and stuff. In fact, those are still going on. In 3 weeks, I'm going to our Canvention. It's a national gathering of us can collectors and other Breweryana collectors in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
There'll be 800 of us there with all of our extras or things that we found. You go out dumping.
Right.
You go out and you find an old campsite that was there back in the 30s or the 40s. You go out with a metal detector, you find this pit, you can dig this up and you pull stuff out of the ground and clean it up, and some of it looks pretty good, but you find 50 of them. You only need one in your collection.
Right.
So you trade them to other collectors for things that you want or don't have.
And this is so just one of these Brewery Collectibles Club of America.
BCCA.com is one of the organizations. There's two other fine organizations. There's NABA, N-A-B-A, and also the ABA, active clubs that have thousands of people in their memberships that do this.
Well, and it's not just a hobby. I'm looking at history. I am looking at over 100 years of history lined up in front of me that you've got, whether it's from, the very first cans, through World War II. You're picking up another one. What is this one?
Well, I was going to say these are the cans from Idaho.
Oh, yeah. You've got quite the Idaho collection.
These are called cone top cans. People say,
nice.
"Oh, yeah, that looks like what you buy brake fluid in or something."
Yeah, the old oil. Yeah,
They have a spout on them. This allowed breweries to fill these on the same equipment that they filled their small bottles on.
Oh, nice.
And then they didn't have to invest into the big production equipment of the flat top beer cans.
Sure.
They were expensive packaging in the day even,
Uh-huh.
and they didn't stack up real good in the stores and stuff, so the flat top kind of won out, but that's what makes these so special. Well, Idaho only put out 3 brands of beer ever in cans, ever, until the craft revolution started.
Okay.
That was Sun Valley beer.
Which is really pretty. It's a very pretty can. It's
Yeah.
blue. It's got a little mountain on it.
And Aero Club beer. Those two came out of Pocatello, out of East Idaho Brewing
Nice.
in Pocatello. And then our own Bohemian Brewery at 6th and Main.
Okay.
There's still a plaque on, I believe it's on 5th Street, or maybe it's on 6th Street there on the side of the building that designates that this is where the brewery was. They put out Bohemian Club, and they had 3 different label changes because somebody in a board meeting probably said, "Hey, we need to update our packaging." So they came out with a different label. So there's those 5, and that's all there was. And that went up until the late 50s. These were out from the early 50s to the late 50s, and then gone. No more canned beer in Idaho until our friends at Sockeye Brewing and Payette Brewing
Started making theirs.
started canning beer with craft beer, and away it went. And now my collection has a little over 1,400 different Idaho canned beers.
Just Idaho.
Yeah, I
Right?
call it the Idaho Canned Beer Archive. We try to have an example of everything from the state. It's hard to keep up with.
I bet. And it's really hard. That's a difficult job having to.
Somebody's got to do it.
Gotta do it. Oh my God! But it is history, and it's it's community. It's fun. Maybe you can make
That's
a
the
little
way,
money.
that's the way we look at it now. I
Yeah.
mean, most of us are a little older, and when we go to these shows and stuff, we're seeing people that we see maybe once a year, sometimes more often. But
Sure.
the cans and the history and the knowledge and all that, that's just a conduit between the friendships that we have. I never would have met this many people in this world all types of demographics and ages and occupations and incomes, and it covers everything. And some of these, it's just interesting when you have conversations with people and you get to know them, and this is the thing that brought you together.
Wow! Thanks for sharing with us. This is fantastic.
Oh, glad for the opportunity.
We've been speaking with Home Fix Radio Show host Joe Prin about his massive collection of beer cans. It's tucked away in a garage in the heart of Eagle. Joe, thanks for sharing your hobby. We'll put a few pictures up online of some of your cool cans.
All right. Thank you.
And that'll do it for this episode of Idaho Matters. Thanks so much for listening. And just a reminder, you can find all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts.